Did you know on a Bernina 880 embroidery machine, you have multiple ways of seeing how an embroidery design and where an embroidery design is actually going to stitch before you take your very first stitch. So I have a design that we're about ready to stitch. This will be for our embroidery applique lesson. So if you've never done embroidery applique or just want to learn some of the tips and tricks along that way, definitely check out that video. This butterfly is actually part of our Embroidery Essentials online class. So I've selected it to be used as we quilt the background, apply the fabric, and cut it down to size before it stitches that applique satin stitch all the way around it. So when we actually want to see where a design is going to stitch, especially when you have a certain item on the fabric that you want to make sure you cover up, or maybe you want to make sure you're not going to stitch into something else that already exists on the fabric, one of the things to actually do is, number one, you do need to do this with the hoop on. So if the hoop is not moving once we start to move things around, you might need to actually touch the needle and thread feature and then come back to editing. And then that way the hoop stays on, it's active, and you can see what's actually going in place. So I mentioned there's more than one way to check a design. So if you go into the I for information, down here at the bottom of your list is a place called check. So we've done a video on this where you can actually see that the needle is moving all the way around your design, and you can see, okay, those are the four corners of our embroidery design. This is the center, and if you do want to move it, like let's say we want to move this design down and you have a specific spot on your fabric you're trying to line up, then you're moving this. The needle is, as I say, it's hot, meaning it's moving and it's active. So as you move it, you are moving the center of the design to a place on your fabric. I'm going to just touch that back to the center because now I'm going to take you one step further, called absolute check. So here's what we need to do. We're going to exit out of that point, and you're going to notice that now when I touch any part of this design, you see that little circle with the cross in it kind of moving around, plus the needle is moving with me. So at any given time I want to see where that wing is going to actually stitch, then I can zoom in on that wing and get to the exact stitch, and then it'll show me right here on the fabric that I am where I need to be. If your machine gets turned off and it wasn't saving it, or if you bump something and you have to kind of reset, fabric comes out of your hoop and you need to re-hoop something exactly where you were at step 3 and you weren't done with steps 4, 5, and 6. This is how to get it back in and virtually check where you're going to be. So absolute check is what we're doing. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to go ahead and go into the hoop area, and you need to turn on the last item in this list. So it's the hoop with the butterfly picture. Yes, I know we have two butterflies, with the 4 arrows pointing onto it. So without that, this will not actually work. So without that on, you can touch all you want, but as you're seeing, you're not getting the hoop to move around as we were before. So touch the hoop, activate the virtual positioning, come out of the hoop section, and now when you touch, so if I wanted to find an exact point where the antenna is going to stitch and then move it to make sure I'm covering something up or I'm connecting with something that already exists, then I can use the knobs to bring it slightly up or slightly over and totally get it exactly to this stitch. Now I mentioned about picking the stitch, so zooming in is probably going to be the next thing you'll want to do. Touch the magnifying glass with the plus on it a few times, and you literally can find yourself touching the exact stitch that you might have left off on and see if you're actually right where you should be. And if you're not, you can use the knobs to nudge yourself up or down and create the exact location. Once you're at that point, you can either zoom out and then go ahead and touch the needle and thread to start to stitch. If this video just opened your mind to so many cool things that you can now do with your Bernina 880, make sure you give it a thumbs up and subscribe to our YouTube channel. And don't forget, we've got all the links for all the Bernina 880 videos, plus that Embroidery Essentials online course class link in the description below.